LearnWhatYourLawyerKnows.com. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is legal billing fees. Legal billing practices as we know them today go largely unchallenged, and I'm going to show you how to understand your bill. More importantly, how to negotiate it, how to discuss it with your lawyer, and so on. So, according to the Law Society of Upper Canada, whom is the regulator in Ontario for lawyers and licensed paralegals, is they have something called the Financial Management Practice Management Guideline. And in it, it says, the financial management of a law practice requires attention to sound business practices. It goes on to say that it is important for lawyers to implement fees and billings procedures that focus on keeping the client informed as to the anticipated costs of legal services in a particular matter. Notice the words, keeping the client informed. Those are the key words here. Now the question becomes, is the client truly informed? But that's why you're here today. Also, it must be noted that charges must be fair and reasonable. In determining the amounts to be charged for legal fees or disbursements, lawyers shall ensure that the charges are fair and reasonable. This is according to the rules of professional conduct, which govern the practice. So, let's look at what else it says. Billing methods and charges. Common billing methods include hourly rates, charging for the actual time expended on the client matter. Now, the key word here becomes actual time. So what we're going to do is we're going to analyze a bill and ask ourselves, did the lawyer actually bill the client for actual time? That'll be the question. Now, one of the common practices that is used for billing is a billing and accounting software program called PC Law. This is by LexisNexis. What this is a data input service where you put in the information and it does the billing for you. But there's something you'll notice here. If we go into the system settings of PC Law, there's something peculiar that I want you to take note of. You'll see that the timer entry starts at tenths of an hour. What that means is that most people, or most lawyers and licensed paralegals in Ontario who bill their clients, bill at tenths of an hour. Now, there are those that don't as well, but in this case, most do. That's hence why this defaults to tenths of an hour. So, what does that mean, tenths of an hour? So let's analyze that. For each hour, there is 60 minutes. And in that 60 minutes at tenths of an hour, that means there are 6-minute intervals. Okay? So, 6-minute intervals times 10 in an hour is a full 60-minute period. So let's analyze that so you can see what I'm talking about. This is a 6-minute interval on the clock. So every time a lawyer works on the file, they're billing you for every 6 minutes if they bill at tenths of the hour. Now, after 6 minutes, they bill you for the next 6 minutes. After that period of time, they bill you for the next 6 minutes, and so on. And as you can see, it goes on around the clock over and over. So let's break this down. Let's take a lower hourly rate so you can understand it. So let's say the lawyer charges $250 an hour. At $250 an hour, you have tenths of an hour equals $25. So that means $25 is being charged for every 6 minutes or less that they're working on the file. So what does that mean, or less? What that means is this. If a lawyer works 30 seconds on your file, they get to bill you for the full 6 minutes. If they work for 13 minutes on the file, they get to bill you for the first 6 minutes, the next 6 minutes, and then the third 6 minutes. So even though they only worked 13, they're allowed to charge you for 18. So the question becomes, are you really getting what you paid for? So let's look at a bill. Here we have a bill that was provided to me where the details have been changed according to the practice of confidentiality. They agreed to let me alter them slightly so that you know the same information, but the billing hours have remained the same. So here we have the meeting with client initial consultation, hence the BW being billable work, and they charge the client 0.90 hours, which is equal to $225 at $250 an hour. So let's break that down so you can understand what that means. So here we have an arrow that indicates, the records indicate that they met with them for 48 minutes and a few seconds. I'm going to round it up for the sake of ease to 30 seconds. So 48 minutes and 30 seconds. So this is what it looks like visually. So if we were to break it down carefully, this line indicates that the lawyer worked past this last 6-minute interval there into the final 6 minutes. The line indicates where they actually did the work. But they got to bill the client for the full 54 minutes. As you can see, they can bill the client for that full final 6 minutes, even though they didn't actually work the full final 6 minutes. So let's look at another one. The next entry, email correspondence to client about opposing party. Now, when I looked at that email that they showed me, it actually was just one line. So that adds up, let's say for the sake of ease again, to 30 seconds or less, and we'll say 30 seconds. So for 30 seconds worth of work, they got to bill the client a full 1/10 of an hour at an amount of $25. So, sure, seems normal. So let's look at that and break it down. For 30 seconds worth of work, you can see the 6-minute interval here. They got to bill for the full 6-minute interval. They billed $25. Now, this may seem insignificant for one billing entry, but when you add it up over time for dozens to hundreds of billing entries, over pages and pages of billing, this $25 becomes hundreds to thousands of dollars of billing that may not necessarily be something you agree with. Let's move on to the next entry. We have email correspondence from client in response to question about opposing party. Again, this is treated as a separate entry. At 0.10 hours, they billed $25. Again, rounding it up, I'll say it took 30 seconds or less to read that email. So it doesn't take that long to read a single line. So the lawyer has billed the client, again, a separate entry. They're not billing for 1 minute worth of work. They're billing for a full 12 minutes worth of work, being 2/10 of the hour at $25 for each. And then again, email correspondence to client about opposing party letter. Again, another one-liner when I looked at the email. Email correspondence from client in response to question about opposing party, another 0.10 entry. Many times this client is being billed. Telephone call with opposing counsel, they left a message. When we asked what that message was, it was literally, again, only took about 30 seconds or less to do so. And they were billed again as a separate entry for another matter. Review of records from client. Now here, we'll break this one down. They reviewed the records from the client 0.30 hours. That's $75. So 3/10 of an hour for $75. So to visually see what we're talking about, the records show that they only worked for 13 minutes on that. So what does that mean? This line indicates that they worked for the first 6 minutes, the second 6 minutes, and then 13 minutes, which is the next minute into the next 6-minute interval. But what you have here is they got to bill the client for the full 6 minutes, even though they didn't work that full 6 minutes. So they billed for a full 18 minutes, and they billed $75. Now, some people will ask themselves, is this fair? Well, that's for you to discuss with your lawyer. So finally, we have a review of the records from the client. What they did was they worked on the file for 2.10 hours, billed $525, okay? So again, the review was conducted the same day as the previous records, but treated as a separate event. The records indicated that they worked on the file from 1:26 p.m. to 3:28 p.m. That's 2 hours and 2 minutes, but they got to bill for the full period of time. So in this case with this client, on April 22nd, 2014, the client received the bill. On this date, the client was billed $7,874. Now, this is a typical bill when you have this much work being done. The bill was 11 pages long and had a total of 134 billing entries. So let's look at this. The bill had 41 0.10 entries. So we'll just analyze the 0.10 entries. Each 0.10 entry is $25. 41 times 25, of that full cost for that bill that they sent, it was $1,025 just for those 41 entries. Billing time summary, that adds up to 4 hours and 6 minutes worth of billing. Although the client was billed for 4 hours and 6 minutes, the lawyer didn't actually work 4 hours and 6 minutes on the file. Actual time spent on the file when you review the records, around 37 minutes. So a lot of people will be asking themselves, how is it possible that you could be billed for 4 hours and somewhat minutes, but yet only 37 minutes worth of work was done? Well, that's why we're here today. That's why we're looking at this. So let's summarize. There were 41 0.10 billing entries. The client was billed $1,025. That's equal to 4 hours and 6 minutes. The actual time was only 37 minutes. 37 minutes at $250 an hour, that equals $154.16. The difference is $870.84. So you have to ask yourself, if they didn't actually work that full 4 hours and 6 minutes as the records indicate, but in fact only worked 37 minutes, but yet billed you that $870 extra, then you have to question, why is this allowed? So the question becomes, what can you do about this? Well, that's an interesting question. You can do something about this. Let's list some of those. You have the power to negotiate your fees. Remember when the entry I showed you, it starts at 0.10 at tenths of an hour? You can go to your lawyer and say to them before you hire them, I don't want to be billed by tenths of the hour. I want to be billed by perhaps a different method, which we'll get to. Also, negotiate your billing before you hire your lawyer. Don't hire your lawyer only to find out how they're billing you. Hire them on the basis of your negotiation first. Ask for by the minute billing. As I was saying earlier, you can have them change that setting. They don't have to bill you by tenths of the hour if they agree with you or if you can persuade them to bill you differently. Always check your bill thoroughly. There are many times when a bill may have something that you don't understand or something that you don't agree with. If you don't agree with your bill after you get it, you can tell your lawyer. Actually, you need to tell your lawyer if you don't agree with your bill. Everybody has the right to go to their lawyer and say, why is this billed here? Why is that billed there? And so on. And finally, if you or your lawyer can't agree, forward your complaint to the assessment office of your local provincial court. In Ontario, that's the Superior Court of Justice. And demand a new paradigm of legal billing practices. It is up to you as the public to get together and demand that billing practices change if you want true access to justice.